When a storm rolls in from your shadow past, the wind keeps whispering names you've lost. Every dream comes with a cost. Do you know how long it takes to dream a dream? Is it when the fire burns down to a low blue gleam? You reach for hope, but the night's so wide. Still you keep that faith alive inside. Boots hit the ground, hearts beat the same. Family, faith in the pouring rain. Thunder in the soul, lightning in the veins. Every loss, every scar, just part of the same. You can't outgrow what's carved in your seams. But Lord, you can dream a dream. Do you cherish your memories, visions gone past, and the lessons that life throws hard and fast? You fight, you fall, you rise again, like a stillborn oak in the southern wind. No one knows how long the pain will stay, but you learn to dance in the rain anyway. The bones don't break, they bend and breathe. In the songs we sing and the lives we lead. Boots hit the ground, hearts beat the same. Family and faith in the pouring rain. Thunder in the soul, lightning in the veins. Every loss, every God, just part of the chain. You can't outgrow your carved in your seams. The Lord, you can dream and free. The night don't own you, the past don't define you. Every dawn's a chance to ride again. Boots hit the ground, hands to the sky. Brothers and sisters standing side by side. Thunder in your soul, let the heavens cry. No grave gonna steal this brand. No one knows how long the pain may scream, but I know how it feels to dream a dream.
Man up, slaves, and hit those buttons, or I'll send ice.
And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal link down below for anybody who wants to share some love. Like I've said many times here recently, we went through a constructive eviction. It is currently in with the Iowa Office of Civil Rights, and they are investigating with HUD. But in the meantime, it has taken everything we've had in savings to move, and we are now month to month and struggling very hard. So always appreciate it. Hit the button, help a brother out. And today, you know, we're coming up on the head of 4th of July here in America. And as the title says, what is the American dream? You know, the American dream back in the day was people coming from other countries where corruption was rampant and they needed a place where they could assert their freedom. And so we celebrate it the 4th of July every year. But over time, this is a 250th anniversary, usually the time when most all empires, countries, nations have existed, about 250 years. And then it gets abolished one way or another. And what we're seeing here today in America is Nazi Germany, Hitler's willing executioners, people that when they get knocked down, they don't have any gumption to get back up and do it again. And those that don't ever get knocked down is because they're never speaking the truth. They're hiding behind the doors and the sign-offs by everybody else, just doing their job in this capitalist society. And so today we're going to review the last 3 videos of my Hitler's Willing Executioner series I did a few years ago. And it's about 3 hours of video. We're going to speed them up so we don't have full 3 hours on the videos itself, but we will be here past midnight tonight, getting a little bit later start. So if you're interested, please feel free. Chat in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what your American dream is and what you see America as today. Because that's the true topic I've been talking about all along these last 10 years, is the corruption and how people don't see it. I can't see how you don't see the corruption of somebody on the other side of the counter saying, I'm just doing my job, despite the fact that they know what they're doing is wrong. So let's take a look at it. Okay, greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Robert, I will get a hold of you after I get done here. I'll give you a quick call or something. In the meantime, my apologies for being late. And I hope that doesn't deter you from hitting that like, share, and subscribe button. If you're on Hecklebus, Keith Little, or El Perro, go ahead and get over to one of the other channels and hit that button as well. Help the algorithms. There's a like button, or excuse me, a PayPal button's down in the detail sections for anybody that wants to share some love. And the StreamYard link is down there for anybody that wants to join the panel. Tonight, I'm going to do some more reading in part 7. And just a reminder, folks, this was at the time where I cut my hair on the 7-year epoch. Every 7 years, I cut my hair, and then I let it grow for 7 years. This time, shortly after I did this series, I decided to start wearing this mustache as a constant reminder to everybody else out there that I run into. And nobody says a word. But most importantly, it's a constant reminder to myself. I'm the one that has to look in that mirror. I'm the one that has to realize I could be the same as them, but I'm not. I have that same darkness. You do too. You just don't want to admit it. When we rise up from that, then we can stand. I hope you guys understand what's happening today, right before your eyes, and what it's going to do to your children, your grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren. What about all the people in history that's recorded in the books? All those names from all the different wars, the names that you forget, the wars that you don't, yet you seem to dismiss them as if though it's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen here on American soil. What do you think happened in World War II when they locked up all the Japanese, whether they were American born or not? People are being fed a delusion, and you're able to see the reality. How does that happen? That we left off in yesterday, and though we're not in a war here, we're certainly not executing people
We're certainly not doing many of the things that they did in Nazi Germany and various other times, but we are following that same pattern. We are being indoctrinated through our own education system and purporting that it's a good education system somehow. Excuse me. Somehow the world seems to think that America is such a great nation because of its education. And I pose that probably not so great. Probably one of the main problems of why we are the way we are today. And so with that, I'm going to start reading here. And this is basically going to give you a kind of idea that these people knew what they were doing. There's no way that they couldn't have known what they were doing. Excuse me. They knew it was wrong, but they did it anyway. And again, these are supposedly Christian people that believed in God and the light that he brought. And I find it disturbing that today we're still willing to do things in that same pattern. And we end up with statistics like death rates for various things. And we like to name those death rates. We like to give them titles. What kind of death was it? We see in the pandemic, it was COVID. A lot of things were marked down as COVID, COVID, COVID. And again, I pose it idiocy, ignorance. Many of them are because of idiocy and ignorance. So with that, it says from the market square, the Germans struck the Jews one at a time, or one group at a time. I don't know what the deal is here, guys. But it says one group at a time to the woods on the outskirts of Josephow, whereupon the Jews were ordered by the policemen to escort to jump down from the trucks, or naturally, as circumstances warranted, given a, quote, helping hand. If you know what that means, of course.
You know what, folks? I just now realized we already reviewed this particular one. So let's go ahead and skip on to part 15. My apologies. We already reviewed this one the last video. So if you want to hear what that video says and you haven't heard it yet, just go back to my last review of Hitler's Willing Executioner.
Of course, there's PayPal links down in the detail section here of part 3, and it says Police Battalion 101. We're on section 8 here of part 3, and it says Police Battalion 101, assessing the men's motives. And as we spoke previously, and we discussed primarily the fact that these people knew what they were doing. There was a certain process that was implemented, but that process kind of took advantage of everybody through placements or suggestions or subliminal ideologies, the mere posing
power and authority. You know, the guy sitting on the other side of the counter who's just doing his job.
That the Jews were the blight of the issues and problems of the German society, things like that. Here we're going to talk about, they're going to talk about assessing their motives. You know, like we talk about today with the police, their biggest motive is to go home to their women and children.
With that paycheck.
So they're just out there just doing their job, earning a paycheck. And that's basically kind of the same thing this is leading to, as we spoke earlier about the concept of these people lining up ordinary women and children, older women, younger children, girls, and just blatantly killing them and not even thinking about them in their own personal perspective, as though maybe it was nowhere equated with being somebody that they might be familiar with, you know, as in relation to their own children or something like that. Now, some of them did.
Greetings, Nathan.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right. Can you hear me clearly?
I hear you clear. It sounds like you might have got a connection fixed tonight, brother.
I got a Bluetooth speaker, but now you're not coming across on it.
Oh,
and it's
my.
on.
Oh.
But I can barely hear you on my speakerphone in a way.
Let me see here.
I don't know what to get to that.
My mic is all the way up.
Let me see here. I may have.
Oops, we might have just lost him. All right, well, we'll get back to this.
Did get weak in it, and as I'll call it, and didn't want to take upon the actual killing, but still they were involved in it knowingly, intentionally, and willingly, and that doesn't preclude any guilt, or excuse me, blame, because they followed an ideology that they absolutely knew wasn't right. And so here we're going to talk about the motives, and part of that is what I've spoken on before is, and not just me, of course, many people have spoken on the people that go to church on one day a week and supposedly repent and this and that in that church, and then go about the rest of the week, 6 days a week, sinning again, so they can go to church on that seventh day and somehow be blessed and forgiven. I don't think.
And I'm specifically talking here in relations to our most recent situation with the constructive eviction. These people are just rubber stamping paperwork, and they know absolutely that they are doing the wrong thing, because I pointed out to them every step of the way what was an error. It was full of procedural legal errors, and I pointed them all out. Maybe not all of them, but most of them for damn sure. And that's, like I said, don't believe me, don't believe the neighbor, don't believe the government, and for crying out loud, don't believe the neighbor. Do your research so you know. What was that, Nathan?
FM mode.
Do you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, but we got some.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know why with StreamYard it won't go through the speaker. It only wants to go through my phone.
Huh.
And you're kind of like a little bit statically with audio, but I can hear you.
All right. Well, let's see if we can deal with that, because on my end everything's clear. So just stop me and interrupt me if you got anything to say. We're going to continue on, Nathan. Appreciate you.
Uh-oh.
That's the accurate process. I think repentance is to not do again. And so it's going to touch on that too. So as we get started, before we get started, I want to thank everybody for your support. Of course, I always appreciate it. So it says, how should we understand the Germans in Police Battalion 101, whose deeds encompass not only the killings and deportations, but also the manner in which the men conducted them? On the face of it, these Germans' actions appear to have been incompatible with a principled disapproval of the genocidal slaughter of Jews. So again, speaking on what I just said, there's a principle in their very religious perspectives of doing unto thy neighbor as thyself, love thy neighbor as thyself. And they dismissed that totally and created a separate classification through their ideologies because of their differences. Not recognizing the very similar and original spiritual origins.
Yes, we're all of one kind, and it's known as mankind. And when we start classifying things differently and putting them in different categories, that's what we're talking about. That's the entitlement phase. You start being classified and categorized, despite your fundamental differences in nature.
Actions sometimes do depress their own motivation, at least approximately. Still, the perpetrators' understanding of their actions and the motivations for their actions becomes still clearer when certain specific issues and their lives in Poland are investigated in greater depth. Casting a comparative glance at the other national group whose members Police Battalion 101 slaughtered is instructive. In addition to having been assigned an important role in the extermination of Polish Jewry, the men of Police Battalion 101 were charged with pacifying their region. As a consequence, they sometimes massacred Poles. Partisans were active, even if not nearly as troublesome at this time as some have claimed, and they inflicted damage on German forces and installations.
And that pacification, that's what we see in America. I have a friend, I don't know if any of you know him, but Derek Gonzalez, been doing some great work in the past years, and he gets all kinds of his cases just dismissed because he knows the law and the words they're using and how to present them in a manner that they have to dismiss. And he's getting the same kind of results that we got in this recent constructive eviction. They just kind of run through there and run you through their shadow gates and everything, and think that they're doing a job to get a paycheck, and what you do doesn't matter. And they will stifle those kind of people. They stifle us and pacify people by stifling us. They come out against us because we're speaking the truth and lock us up so that people will think, oh, he must have done something wrong. That's a pacification. Okay, we're back, Nathan. You get her taken care of yet?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
It tries to go to when I switch speakerphone and headset earpiece and back to those two. It tries, but then it switches back to my phone
Okay, well, let's get
by
back into it.
itself. But it don't want to work, and it goes on a lower volume when I put it on earpiece.
Yeah, I imagine because they're set automatically. All right, let's
All
get
right,
in.
I guess I have to go with this.
All right, this will work. This will work.
Eventually, on Police Battalion 101 itself. In other words, they got so caught up in the vigor that they dismissed the very proponent that those that they were injuring were actually, again, ideologically part of their quote grouping, their Nazization. In Poland, as elsewhere, the Germans practiced draconian occupation policies. Casualties suffered by Germans were multiplied 50 or 100-fold when the Germans revenged themselves on innocent Polish citizens. In other words, there was a large portion of the Polish citizenry that wasn't Jew, but was German. But there was a portion of the Polish population that was actually German in origin and were Jews at the same time. On September 25th, 1942, a detachment of 3rd Company was ambushed in Telsen during an operation to trap 2 resistance fighters. One of the Germans, a sergeant, was killed. Even though Police Battalion 101 is already complicit in the killing of around 20,000 Jews, this may have been the first casualty suffered by its men during the 3 months that they had then completed in Poland, which may shed some light on their staggeringly violent reaction to it. Major Trapp submitted a report of over 2.5 single-spaced pages, recounting in great detail the events preceding, during, and following the ambush, all because of the death of one sergeant in an occupied hostile territory. More significantly, the Germans exacted retribution for what Trapp, in an unwitting testament to selective compassion and to a stunning lack of self-reflectiveness, called in his report the cowardly murder. 4 platoons led by Trapp himself first combed the area around Telsen for partisans without success. They had been instructed to take 200 lives in retribution for the Germans' death. They were instructed to take 200 lives. It didn't matter if there were 200 Germans, 200 Jews, 200 Polish. It was 200 lives. They didn't care indiscriminately. You see where this goes now? Again, it's a statistical record where they make a demand on it, has to be supplied, and they just change the categories. So they assembled the 300 Polish inhabitants of the village, choosing, however, only 78. There may have been some women and children among them, and shot them at the cemetery. What was Trapp's attitude towards the killing of Poles? One of his men was struck by it. I can still recall very vividly that our battalion commander was very shaken after this action. He even wept. He was what one would call a fine human being, and I deem it impossible that it was he who had ordered the shooting of the hostages. So I wonder oftentimes, people like this, when they cry like that, what makes them think that doing those kind of things without thinking of that kind of consequence first? Again, this is an entire society of Germans that pose to be Christians, and yet they used it against their very own image and likeness of peoples.
And this is an entire society of people that pose as Americans, but act like Hitler's willing executioners. It's no different. Not one bit.
It's sickening. And it's just because they decided that's some magical grouping. When compared to the obvious distaste and reluctance shown by Police Battalion 101 in its comparatively small-scale revenge killings of Poles, the men's zealous and dedicated slaughtering of Jews stands in sharp relief. The killing of Poles was a regrettable necessity. They call it a regrettable necessity. Again, like we spoke earlier about being palatable. They call these horrendous things necessities. How is that? That's blasphemy. Towards Jews, all inhibitions had fallen from them, yet the men's comparative gusto in killing.
And I say blasphemy because Germans, as Catholics, should know better. Again, mankind. We were all created by the same creator. Why did they make the separation? God doesn't.
Jews is not all that distinguishes it. Their willingness to be seen by others, including loved ones, as genocidal executioners also reveals their approval of the deeds. So there were those that were repulsed by it and decided they want to step back from the actual killing, but are still culpable because they still knew exactly what was going on and still placated as Christians that somehow that was okay. And you've got people that were fully gung-ho vigorously about it, showing no remorse, as if though it was just a normal everyday thing. Sickening. The market square became littered with dead. Such shootings naturally included many children who found it particularly difficult to remain immobile in such discomfort for hours on end. The Hueys and some of the Germans in the Midserzak, guess I'm going to slaughter that one. German gendarmerie also used the occasion to satisfy their lust for cruelty. They entertained themselves by flogging Jews with whips. Entertainment. Not only was Frau Wohlhoff a party to all this, but so were the wives of some of the locally stationed Germans, as well as a group of German Red Cross nurses. Frau Wohlhoff, if conforming to her usual practice, probably carried that symbol of dominion, a riding whip with her. That day, she and the other German women got to observe firsthand how their men were purging the world of the putative Jewish menace by killing around 1,000 and departing 10,000 more to their deaths. This is how the pregnant Frau Wohlhoff spent her honeymoon, watching this happen in the public square.
Can you imagine celebrating the 4th of July like that? I urge you to consider that that's exactly what's going on behind closed doors. Not to that extent of Nazi Germany, but here on American soil, we have people being locked up just because they don't want some truth out. Just because they think it's it's a danger to our democracy. It's a democracy, not a democracy. These motherfuckers are crazy.
If Wohlhoff and other officers did not care that their labors were observed by his wife, by other German women, even by Red Cross nurses, many of them of Police Battalion 101 thought at least the presence of Frau Wohlhoff was inappropriate. One man tells of his reaction. On the day of the action, I myself saw Frau Wohlhoff dressed in normal clothes on the marketplace, and not just once, but frequently over a long period of time. I too was astonished at the behavior of our company commander and his spouse, and it made me angry all the more so, since our company commander knew full well before an action what was going to happen. So even though they had total disregard for killing women of all ages, children, older women, it made no difference. Yet when it came to one of their women or their children, they placated that was too horrific for them to even view, and they needed to keep it out of their sight somehow. Some did, some didn't. Some evidently were using it as, like I said, dominion and prestige and privilege.
And so I have to ask, when you look at a man in the face, how is it you tell what he is? How is it you classify what he is? How you categorize him? When you look at another man, do you see an image and likeness? When you look in the mirror, is that not an image and likeness? Welcome back, Nathan. Oops, we got to
All right.
So
Fix it.
I think so. So
Okay.
when I look in the mirror, I think we got a little lag there though. So I'll pay attention to that. So when I look in the mirror, like I said, I see that image and likeness, and it's a reminder that I don't want to do that same thing. I can't see myself signing up to do it simply because others will sign off for me, because I already know in my heart it's not the right thing to do. What say ye, Nate? What do you think about when you see other people in that image and likeness? Do you make determinations on what kind of ethnicity they have or what kind of character traits they might?
Where's my stream?
All right. Well, we're going to get back to it, Nathan. We'll at least keep the people occupied with the content then. We'll get the technical difficulties figured out over time, though.
Power on. Bluetooth mode.
I'm going to mute you while we do this, brother.
I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you're on Keith Little, El Perro, or Hecklebus, get on over to one of the others and do the same. And of course, there's a PayPal link down in the details section for anybody who wants to share some love. We're going to continue on with the next part. What do the men of Police Battalion 101 say to their attitudes towards genocidal slaughter? The Lieutenant Buckman, who did refuse to kill, explains what led him to demur when his fellow officers did not. I was then a little older and moreover a reserve officer. It was not intent on being promoted or otherwise to advance because I had at home my prosperous business. And like I said, the reserve officers were the ones that came from the local civilian group who had already established themselves as generally adults and not just young men just coming out of high school or something, but or just out of the schooling system.
This would be similar to the American premise of militia, reserve people ready to take on arms in case things got out of hand and they needed to go take care of business.
Or in Nazi Germany, it was Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. That's the origin there, guys. And so rather than be on the front lines and being stationed from here to here to here and move as the forces did up on the front parts of the lines, he optioned to stay local to his home and serve in that capacity somehow. And they allowed it. So it's just a matter of allowing the people to become part of the ideology by letting those kinds of things remain settled and comfortable for those that are caught up in that cognitive dissonance, that propaganda, that indoctrination.
And like I said, I made reference to it being quite similar to the militia that we have here in America as a premise. And understand that the militia is here not as an affront against the people on the land, but as an affront against people that would invade our land. In Nazi Germany, there were no invaders. There was no reason to rise up in a reserve position to take care of people that were actually born on that land and genocide them. There was no reason for that. There was no outside force. That was all pure hatred.
The testimony of another killer inadvertently confirms that neither he nor the others considered a comrade's acceptance of the option not to kill as an ideological or ethical rejection of the genocidal enterprise. When the question is put to me, why did I at all participate in the shooting? I must say that one does not want to be considered a coward. So in their chivalry and glory and honor of genocidal killing, they didn't want to be seen a coward.
Amazing about the irony, isn't it, Nathan? Go ahead.
Everybody goes by the Bible that wants to and go by God's word. And in God's word, Exodus is one, and there's a Leviticus is another. When a people, even if it's a group of people, comes to a land from another land, we are not to vex them from the land because they're our brothers. We're to see them as being born here too, because we're all to share the land.
Correct.
All this other stuff that we go by that we grew up on is man-made statism crap.
Correct.
And the only other thing is that when it comes to the forefathers and the country they created, the Constitution, all that, the Democrat Party was not created until the 1820s for the South. And then the party for the Republican for the North America was created in the 1850s. So they never created a two-party system. They had a system of voting, but it was never a two-party system. That's another thing, I looked up and AI admitted, brought it up. Because I asked when was the two-party system created. the Democrat Party and the other, and it's stated 1820s for one and then 1850s for the other. So all that was created after the forefathers died, except for the one in the 1820s, because the last one died, George Washington, in 1834. And then after that, that's when everything went to crap. So,
Yeah, see, in the Democratic Party in 1820 was established, like you said, in the South, and it was because of the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, as it relates to the ports in the South and being able to get things from South America. And then it continued on not too much later than 1850 after the Civil War and everything, the Panama Canal, because those workings were already in play when America was established in wanting to make a market out of this land. And one of the problems they faced in planning all of this out was the World Trade fact that South America and North America were connected. And in order to go around America, you had to go all the way down to the South. And that tripled or quadrupled the trip. Go ahead.
yeah, and the only other thing is I want to say, anyone who supports the Democrat Party, says they're a Democrat, is supporting the South, the ones that they call the only slave country, or country back then, but both sides had slaves. It didn't matter.
Right. And I pose that anybody that votes doesn't really know what they're doing. If you really want to affect this system, you become involved. You don't sit back in your comfort and convenience watching the boob tube of somebody else's dramatic or comedic life because yours is so great, and just let the world go. You have to be involved.
Well, the voting don't work anyways because they have it all rigged.
Right.
I mean,
that's the electoral college.
You can't run for any office unless you have $1 million in the bank account. And and aside from that, you got to have donors like they have, and they don't allow people to get donations from the public to be able to run.
Yeah, that's that corporate ladder of capitalist societies where you got to purchase the rung on the ladder. So when you first start out, you got to purchase the bottom rung. This is just like playing poker, folks. You first start out playing poker, you got to start out the small tables and build your stack so you can go up to the bigger tables. Same thing as climbing a corporate ladder. But the only thing is that you're buying it. You have to buy it. There's no way. There's no other way to do it. Okay.
I mean, there is one way to get started, and it's at the bottom. There's one group, company you could join, but you have to be in it for a while before you could even run for a governor, I believe, or mayor.
Well, yeah, but it's still
start out at the bottom as a bottom feeder and work your way up.
Right, and it's still the same premise of a crab full of bucket or a bucket full of crabs. The only way to get out or get up to the top and have your freedom is to climb over other crabs.
Yeah, it's all just really, it don't matter. We just need to quit voting, let it fall, quit participating, quit accepting it, and tell them to leave us alone and just be armed. And when they come, you defend yourself because you have the right to defend yourself, period.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what the British did. That's what any other king and their authority of the people that they hired to be the authority to help the king, the government control their own people. They hire people out, their own people, to help them control the people.
Yep. And that's what this indoctrination system is here in America. So let's get back to it.
I don't know how well that plays on them today, because I think it takes more than a coward to line women and children up and shoot them in the head. Again, simply because somebody else told them to or said they could. I think that makes the greatest coward. I think many people would agree with that through the history. The opportunities given to men to avoid killing have already been touched upon. In addition to the men who choose not to kill, The recalcitrant lieutenant served as a powerful example to the entire battalion that the men could refuse to kill without suffering tangible hardships. Furthermore, from the battalion commander down to its non-commissioned officers, those in command commissions or positions showed understanding for the disinclination that their subordinates might have had in performing their unsavory tasks. As one of the men puts it, when discussing Trapp's initial offer, it did not take special courage for someone to step forward. But let us imagine that despite the opportunities to avoid killing, despite the possibilities that existed not to volunteer to shoot Jews, some of the men were hesitant to declare their disinclination to kill, either by asking to be excused from killing or by repeatedly and perhaps conspicuously failing to volunteer for killing operations. So it seems like it was also a volunteer situation. Let us imagine that they were of such weak will that although they perceived the genocide to be a monumental crime, they nevertheless preferred to be genocidal executioners, to witness and produce the gruesome scenes that were the roundup and the executions. They still could have done what the disproving lieutenant did, apply for a transfer. The lieutenant wrote to the police president of the Hamburg station stating his opposition to the killing and asking to be returned to Hamburg for duty there. His request was granted. Indeed, his refusal was not held against him. He was absolutely promoted to a higher rank and installed in the trusted position of adjutant to the police president of Hamburg. So sometimes they even get rewarded, and that's, again, kind of similar to what we see today. We have police officers out there killing people and getting promoted for it. It's sickening. This particular incident, the guy said he didn't want to kill, and he still got promoted. It's a system of promotions, future motions. Go with the plan, folks. Go with the plan. The next thing I've got, again, is interesting because it's a particular statement on their willingness to do this shit. And again, it correlates to people today in these modern times and their willingness to do these horrendous things to people, simply because it's convenient for them, for a paycheck or an ideology or a popularity contest or something. Greetings, Gage. How you doing tonight, brother?
Good, man. You?
Good, good.
Did I come on?
Well, I appreciate you joining me. I know you're interested in this psychology stuff to a degree.
And that's why I'm doing this stuff, folks. It's your own psychology. Do you understand your personalities? Say that again, Nathan.
I was saying that what I'm watching, it just all froze. Okay.
Oh,
I just did. I guess you just had it up on a different page.
yeah.
I just wasn't seeing you talking, even though it's working.
Yeah, I don't have a production manager or anything, so I'm doing the best I can. But that's what we're talking about, folks, is your own psychology. Do you even know who you are? Do you know the darkness in you? Likely not. Many people placate that they're innocent.
Well, I know how dark I can be.
Yeah, until I see them sitting on the other side of the counter, rubber stamping shit, saying I'm just doing my job. That's dark, folks. When you give not one rat's ass about the person on the other side of the counter and his life and how you're affecting it to a extreme measure, literally taking lives, and you are just blatantly saying I'm just doing my job, you are one of the worst. You refuse to recognize the darkness that you perpetrate in your own actions simply because you think the actions are minimal and you have the authority to do them because you get paid to do so. That, folks, is pathetic.
Oh, man, that's what I do. I just research all it. I look into things all the time.
Yeah. So we're, I don't know if you're familiar with what I've been doing here, but it's Hitler's Willing Executioners. We're about halfway through the book now. The last part is going to go pretty quick, but I've been doing some in-depth reading on this book here and correlating it to what's going on today, as we still have Hitler's Willing Executioners. We just call them something different today. And it doesn't matter if you're a transgender, calling somebody else Antifa or BLM or, all these ad hominems, and it's just ridiculous.
It is, man. And yeah, I've looked into the Third Reich and their obsession with the occult. Have you looked into that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a thick German Catholic in origin myself.
That's interesting. Yeah, sometimes I do it live. I had Frater RC on the other day. He's talking about how.
Yes, Bad Barney No Bullet says, like IDF Israel is doing to children in Gaza. Absolutely. Same damn thing. And real quick here, Nathan, and you know, it was a year ago, there was a big news articles going around about the Israeli young people burning their draft cards, not wanting anything to do with the genocide, admitting themselves that that's just pure genocide. They don't want nothing to do with it. Where are those people in America? Where are those people in America standing up for those children? Why aren't they doing? They're signing up to go fight it and do the same damn thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say when it comes to the Pledge of Allegiance, it was created out of a pledge, sort of like the Pledge of Allegiance from Hitler, who, you know, they created one for them. So a lot of things we got going on, laws and stuff we got that they got going on for us, but benefits them, was creations from other countries. Because we were supposed to be different. We were supposed to be separate. We weren't supposed to be, you know, ran under laws and other things like other countries. But the people from, I guess, the beginning of the First World War to now started adopting all those other stuff into this country. And the people just didn't know that this stuff was coming from other countries. And most still don't.
Right. And I would do your research on that, because the Pledge of Allegiance has been around since 1892, shortly after the Civil War. But the premise
So
here
that's what AI told me.
well, the AI is wrong.
Or I heard it from somewhere. I had to check into it, yeah.
But your premise on adopting methods from other nations and stuff is absolutely correct. And that's the indoctrination of public education. That is a Prussian military training method, period. And that's why Pink Floyd did The Wall. Just another brick in the wall. That's all we are, just another brick in the wall. Think about it, folks.
He's learning German just for the linguistic value of it. You know, he's like learning different languages and stuff.
Absolutely.
But to really understand the words, like the etymologies and stuff, it's good to have.
Yeah, I've been working on Portuguese.
Oh yeah. And you can go to Brazil or something.
Well, no, we got that Fabio guy. If I can learn Portuguese, I can tell everybody what he's saying.
There you go.
Fabio, remember Fabio, people? I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Enslaved, but Fabio was a guy that used to show up on Paul's, but it was a troll. He was a man with some type of disability where he had this huge bulbous forehead, and he was mentally incapacitated, and somebody else was putting him on screen and just letting him sit there. I mean, he couldn't talk or anything, and he just sit there and rock back and forth and stuff and give wild-eyed looks and everything. And so it was a little troll that somebody was trying to pull on Paul, and he just let it go. He just kept pulling him up and let him sit there, you know, as long as he wasn't disrupting the platform. But somebody was speaking in Portuguese, so that's how we know he's, you know, either in Portugal or some history of Portuguese. And so I started learning that so I could understand what the other person on that screen was saying. It was a unique experience, believe me.
So anyway, the next part says, like I said, this is according to their willingness. You know, if it was their own women and children, they probably wouldn't do it. Of course, obviously not. They're an exception. And that goes to, again, you know, what we do today. We make an exception for our family members. And oftentimes it's our family members we really shouldn't be giving an exception for. In addition to the willfully and unnecessarily brutal manner in which the Germans and their helpers conducted the various stages of a ghetto annihilation, namely the routine roundup and execution procedures, they also gratuitously brutalized and tortured the Jews. And this, again, was to put on a show for the rest of the people of the community with the propaganda that they were a blight on the German prosperity and economic system. And so it just helped enforce that ideology as it allowed for the opening of new homes and stuff and the expansion of that German anti-Semitic population.
And that's the same thing that they do with these First Amendment auditors and people that are actually standing up and speaking out at city councils and stuff. And they're locking them up to silence them. Pure and simple.
Use of propaganda and brainwashing techniques, probably. I've ever seen that experiment, the Stanford prison experiment, and also the other one with the electrical buzz thing. I forget what was that one called again?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but Phillips and
Pacification.
Bardo did the Stanford prison project, and he basically was the main financer and he was the professor emeritus during that project. It was supposed to be a 2-week project. It ended up being cut short on the 6th day because of how bad it got. But now they have what's called the Heroic Imagination Project, and it's literally, when you look at it, it's literally the internet. It's the AI that allows us this great thing of this amazing artistic set of systems that we can look at and use all that information for whatever we need. But it's not going to get you anywhere unless you know how to use it appropriately.
And that's what I'm saying here about this internet today. You know, it is a great thing, but it's gotten to the point that people use it blatantly without realizing the consequences. They look for the gratification and validation, but the consequences that they don't see, they don't give a fuck about. And those consequences are the ones that are come later, you know, after the data centers come in and deplete the water supplies as they cry out, or the expenses go up, all kinds of shit. You know, it's called Javon's paradox. There's going to come a point where it's going to eat itself up, just like you see with the Ouroboros, a snake that's eating its own self.
Well,
that's what you're looking at.
Some of these centers are so huge, they look like they could be the indoor 15-minute cities rather than data centers, but it will collect all the data of everyone that's living in them. And I think they're using other things to, because the water don't disappear. It'll vaporize, it'll go into the atmosphere, and then you got clouds and it rains. Well, if they're making the water evaporate, do all that faster, we will end up with more storms, and they can make them worse and be able to talk a large amount of people into going into them, feeling like they will be more protected from the outside world that they have made worse.
Right, and I can't say as to the validity of the evaporation and all that, but the concept again itself of protecting people from the environment which we are a part of. This is that fundamental difference in nature that I spoke about earlier. We're fundamentally a mentality. It's your mentality that has the value. And if you value the false patriarch and his protection, you will never seek the value of the true patriarch and his covenant protection. Just saying, folks, for all you Christians out there.
And it's just an amazing set of information that people get involved in, and sometimes they go down those rabbit holes and get caught in them. And you have to learn that this is just a set of systems that plays in with Isaiah 54:17. No tongue shall prosper against you. So it's just literally a tool to learn other tongues. Like I said earlier, I'm working on learning Portuguese so that when Fabio comes up and starts running this or that verbiage or whatever, I can figure it out and let the people know what he's saying. So it's just a matter of.
Who's Fabio? I'm not even sure.
He's some guy from, well, I can't say Portugal, but it seems like Portuguese is what he's speaking no matter where he's at. And he's evidently got some kind of disability or damage done to him or something is off because he doesn't communicate. In a normal sense, you can see him. Watch Paul's show sometime. He'll show up sometime.
Oh, okay. But, and yeah, to add to that, we were talking about with the being system. It's a social engineer's dream. It's just all dopamine feedback loops. And even the best of us are trapped into sometimes. It's just highly addictive. You know, it hits the same receptors as dope does, like as actual drugs do. You know?
Well, it's like we have our dreams at night, but this is like a daydream setup where we can literally go into a metaverse. And, you know, I catch myself at it sometimes too. I'll get into a subject where I'm researching so deeply, I ignore everything all day long, and I'm into this research. And it's a daydream setup that allows your imagination to come up with solutions in your real life. It gives you examples like parables in the scripture. It's the same thing. You can use it for examples.
Yeah, the pursuit of knowledge is the most important endeavor, in my opinion.
Exactly. And so then it goes on to finish up here. Sometimes the agents inflicting suffering on the Jews were the Germans, Eastern European Hiwis, such as during one of the Mead-Zirzek, again, I don't know if I slaughtered that, deportations, when the Hiwis, obviously influenced by the Germans' own brutality, lashed the Jews with whips. So even though they were just civilians, they started taking upon the punishment and degradation of Jews in the city themselves. It was no longer just participation by the military, SS, and the police battalion. So it was now a more common thing that was at the most grassroots level, you know, right at their own doorstep.
Mob mentality.
Yep.
Hive
Any,
mind.
any brutality that the Hueys publicly perpetrated upon the Jews was permitted, if not promoted, by the Germans, who had absolute control over them. So it's literally the Nazi Party had control over the Hueys, and in that, you know, as part of the world domination tactic, they were subservient to the Germans, and the Germans allowed them, as a show that the Jews were the lowest of the low, allowed a subservient population to go ahead and degrade them too.
Now, I watched the video. It's the old video they used to put out. Shows how Hitler treated Jews and the people there, but it also talked about how Stalin was working with Hitler, started working with him eventually, but it was all mainly blamed on Hitler.
Right, and that's what we have today in America. Like I said, it's the police. Now, police officers are the ones that are subservient. See, they really don't have an office, but yet they carry the title of officer. Okay, so this is the subservient to the guy that's paying them, that says they're the low of the low. We're going to let you go out and collect them because you're going to take on the damage if one of them gets wild with you. But we're going to compensate you for it, and we'll back you up for it. But you're still one of the lows, because if you get out of line, we'll throw you in jail too. See, that's the mentality that we're living in this police state. And I don't see how people don't see this, particularly the police themselves. Because one day, like it was said by, I believe it was Hillary Clinton in a exposed audio recording, if these people find out what we're doing, we will be hanged in the streets tomorrow. They should be.
One of the greatest degradations there is.
You know what's funny about that, Wizard? The fact is that it's moral relativism, right? So as long as these people are safe and comfortable, they'll just go along with whatever the fuck they're told to do, because they have no true subjective morality, right? It's all relative morality for their situation, because they never had anyone there to instill real morals into them when they're growing up. I'm sure there was some of them that didn't want to participate, and they probably ended up getting killed or ran or fled or something.
And you're going to keep back in the blue until it happens to you. And that's when you'll want to change your morality. But by then, it's too late. You need to start changing morality right now and wake the fuck up. This is America, not Nazi Germany.
Now, I had one sheriff tell me, if they made it a law, you have to have a license to walk, I will enforce it. And he just blatantly said that to me when I didn't even mention anything about that.
Yeah. That's how far they're willing to go for that paycheck.
We can only hope that sometimes, because, you know, again, correlating with modern times, it's happening today, and I'll give you a firsthand experience. During the beginnings of my trying to figure out my lung cancer thing, I was set up for an appointment at this one place here in Waterloo, and I got there, and I made it very clear I wasn't going to wear a mask, and they agreed to that and everything. Well, then when the doctor came out to take me back, then all of a sudden they changed the thing and wanted me to wear a mask. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. She says, well, you have to wear a mask or we can't serve you. I said, now you're going to violate public accommodation when I already made it clear I'm not going to wear a mask. She says, sir, if you don't wear a mask, we're not going to serve you. I said, are you a Christian? She says, yes. I said, so you're telling me that you would be willing to violate a man's living soul by making him wear a mask? And she said, yes. Yes. I said, so you're telling me that you would be willing to violate a man's living soul by making him wear a mask? And she said, yes. And I said, are you a Christian? She says, yes. I said, so you're telling me that you would be willing to violate a man's living soul by making him wear a mask? And she said, yes.
You guys hear that? That is an absolute true story. My wife was standing right there with me. And then they called the police to have us removed. So luckily, we called an Uber, and an Uber got there sooner than the police. Imagine that. Fucking insanity, folks.
She said she's a Christian and that she's willing to violate a man's living soul by making him wear a mask. So she couldn't possibly be a Christian under Genesis 2:7.
No, she isn't, because most people, they claim to be something. And this Christianity is all deception to the energy harvest and fuck it. It's not even real Christianity, right?
Exactly.
So pretty much, people just claim this title, but really her true religion is money.
Yep.
That's what it is. Because if she refused to do that, then she'd lose her job, and she wouldn't be, she's not willing to take that sacrifice,
And these doctors already proved they're not willing to take that sacrifice, because every doctor out there, folks, and you can look it up, do your research, and even ask them, they must take an oath. And that oath is known as a Hippocratic oath to Apollo and the Greek gods. As Christians, doctors take Hippocratic oaths to Apollo and the Greek gods.
I thought I heard that a while back that they stopped taking that oath.
Oh no, I'll do my research again, like I always do. I do my research, and then I do follow-up research, and then I do follow-up research. I keep up on things. I'll go check that out.
Because, I mean, if they don't take it, then they don't have to go by what God says.
Correct.
I mean, Trump didn't even put his hand on the Bible when he was sworn in, and the preacher didn't even say unto God or whatever it is. He didn't add God into it.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine.
She's just relying on a system.
Well, yeah, she needed a paycheck to go home and take care of the rest of the family. Just
That's how they get people, right? Just doing my job, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that, do you swear to God?
The Jews. The scene of the marketplace during the last large deportation from Mierzwiak is such an instance. The Germans forced the Jews to sit or squat huddled together. Then it has some following photographs, and there's thousands of them, depicts a similar scene from another of these German deportations. So they literally, they were packing them in to the rail cars and stuff that get them off. And it's an amazing process that these people just developed on their own for a matter of efficiency in a process that they just dehumanized everything. I mean, it talks about how they dehumanized their own German people in Poland that were Jewish and German. So they still weren't able to make the distinction that there's some kind of oddity in the separation and class, or the classification and separation through those classifications. Why is it? And so again, we talk about the Christianity that developed on the very fact that they believed one thing that was a different perspective than the Judaism. And it was that one simple difference that created a different classification that created the very separation that we call anti-Semitism today. It happened when Christianity came about.
Yeah, they dehumanize everyone today by using other words, alien, illegal, and all this other stuff. So that way you look at them different rather than as like you, another human being, and then to treat them as what God, how God says to. And these so-called Christians sit here and go along with what man says instead of what God says.
Yeah. The thing here says that they are no longer required to take the Hippocratic Oath and largely do it as a ceremonial intent to stick to the ethics that are displayed in the ancient Greek text when it comes to medicine. And so, yeah, it's symbolic only now. But there was a time that they took the Hippocratic Oath as a matter of stature and everything. And this is something we really have to consider when we come into modern terminology. And like Nathan just mentioned, they changed the words around. This is why I study language, philology, etymology, etiology, epistemology, all kinds of things about language and its roots and how it transforms. And today we are living, and this is why, again, Isaiah 54:17 is so imperative to understand. We are living in a world of Babel where language is known as vehicular. It does move things. Words make things happen. It's always been iterated that way. And Isaiah 54:17 says, no tongue, you shall rise up against any tongue. That means you, again, like I said earlier, you need to start learning these tongues. You need to learn the language. Otherwise, you're just sitting there babbling, taking upon the words that they give you without knowing its true proper context and origin. You don't understand how they're using them. You don't understand the venue they're using them in and the context displayed there. This is why I talk about the legal venues and all the different languages. You run across a document that speaks English, concise, plain English, and all of a sudden you see this Latin term, something's wrong. Something's wrong. It should tell you that. But no, people just say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Obviously.
Yeah, I had one guy said, keep repeating this, give under seizure, what is seizures and all this other stuff. And then I told him, we're not supposed to be ran under Roman law. We're different. We're supposed to be separate. And he didn't say anything after that.
But that's exactly what we are. We are under Roman law, a taxation system, not a TIV system. Understand the differences, folks. Joshua Jonio 6381 says law of occupation unarmed. And I appreciate you, brother. Always enjoy your content. Where the Geneva Conventions are absent, the ICCPR applies. Propaganda and res. The Constitution is in the states, and Social Security is the states. Absolutely.
That's what the whole deal with Jesus is. It was one story versus the original Judaic story and their presentation that Jesus wasn't the actual Messiah.
Yeah. You see, this is what happens when you're imbalanced in the brain, right? If you have a right imbalance in the brain, that usually comes up through atheism. It comes up, a left logic imbalance in the brain usually comes up, like if you're more left, usually comes up as atheism. It comes up as moral relativism, order following type thing.
And in case you guys don't understand that statement right there, Social Security system is based on taxes. The Social Security number is, in fact, a taxpayer identification number. And basically what it's saying is that we, as a state, have to take care of the indigent people. And since you are indigent, you have to pay us taxes so we can take care of you. Because you obviously can't take care of yourself because you're dumb enough to pay us taxes so we can take care of you. Otherwise, you would take care of yourself and tell us to fuck off.
Well, what gave them the ability to do all this, because before the 14th Amendment was created, we were not governed by the states and the government until they placed us in their jurisdiction, their territorial jurisdiction, to be subject to the laws of the government and the states they're in through the 14th Amendment. We were free.
And then, if it's the other way around, you just blindly believe anything.
But Nathan, I hope to help you change your language because we did not. I guarantee you, folks, we did not get put in them. Okay, what happened is they made it available, and everybody said, "Oh, great, a convenience, a comfort, a benefit. Gimme, gimme, gimme." You were not placed in there. You take it upon yourself. You undertake it yourself. Understand the language. You undertake what they give you. You undertake the person that they give you, which is in fact and in law a decedent. And you are the undertaker. Think about it.
But we cannot, even though there is one part in USC that says we have a right to work without ID, to be able to get a job in the system, we can't because they force that upon us. I mean, you can't get out of it. You can try all you can, deny your state's nationality, sign paperwork, documents, and all this stuff and send it to them to get out of it, but they're still going to force you into it.
But again, you're not in it. But again, you're not in it, and they can't. You can just come out of her, as it says, simply by establishing your capacity and status. And I'm going to give you Psalms 33:9. For he spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. And if you think about equity, Nathan, I know you know a little bit about equity. Equity is substance over form. So Psalms 33:9 gives me my standing, and it stands fast because it's his command that he spoke. Okay, so that's my substance. That's my substance. Equity is substance over form. So if you accept his authority, it's a rejection of their authority. And I stand on that. Simple, folks. Josh Jonio 6381 says, yes, UN treaties are in accordance with Roman civil law, HCCH child support. Now, this is called, at the UN level, United Nations, this is, what do they call them? It's an agreement set up, much like we just determined with the Hippocratic Oath. It's a matter of ethics. And so Social Security was founded by the United States. It is a domestic program by the United States. And now the UN has incorporated that into the treaty programs so that other nations that want to come into the UN, they have the equal consideration of the premier Social Security system offered by the United States. That's it. And that's on a world international level of taxing system. It is an international tax system, and those taxes are paid through the postal union by the president upon the gross domestic product and deposited as credits into the IMF. This is why Trump was saying he was going to stop the UN. He was going to stop signing on to the postal treaty. He was going to opt out of the postal treaty. That's what that was all about. He's tired of Americans paying the taxes for these other nations using the Social Security system and not paying their part. See, our American taxes going into the IMF are dispersed out into the world. And that Social Security system, which is a taxpayer identification number, therefore a taxpayer system, America is paying the most into the IMF. Why are we not getting the most back? Why are we the ones, if we're putting the most in, have a welfare system that still has mamas, have by multiple daddies, still saying here, who pays? People. Why is it we're the ones paying the most in, trying to build these other countries up, and they're not paying their share out of their gross domestic product? That's what Trump was worried about. That's what Trump was getting on him about. That's the part of the debt that we really need to be concerned about. Social Security is something everybody's been delusioned into. You are not required to have a Social Security number. You can look this up. You are not required to get a Social Security number. That would be the same thing. Think about this, folks. As Hitler's willing executioners stamping a number on a goddamn wrist.
Yep.
Where do you think we're at today? Now we're putting microchips in our hands. Goodness gracious. Bitch ass slaves.
You have zero logic. You just believe in whatever a book that's written tells you, or whatever you're handed, right? Because times like this, they just hand you a whole new copy of the shit, and a lot of people believe it.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest conveniences that people in modern society particularly take advantage of is the fact that they believe that they have this military force that's willing to go to war, and therefore they don't have to stand up and go to war themselves. And that's part of the downfall. They're not standing up at all. They're not recognizing that it's a spiritual war and that they've already lost, or that they've already been defeated or knocked down and put in a place where they're going to be held until they do recognize it and learn to stand up.
And what it's through is through compliance, even through silence. Like if you don't say anything about it and you just go along with it, then you're actually.
Yes, that's that pacification to compliance that I was talking about. When you look out your window after watching your boob tube sitting on your couch, your comfy couch, eating that processed foods and drinking them poison drinks and laughing at the comedic life on TV because yours is so fucking great. And you look out the door after them sirens, after you hear them sirens, you see them lights, and you look out a couple blocks down the street, they're arresting one of your neighbors. You think your neighbor did something wrong automatically because you've been pacified in compliance to believe so. Again,
Yeah,
folks,
they're guilty first.
again, folks, don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. Don't believe your mother, for crying out loud. Just open your fucking eyes, maybe. A lot of times you don't even have to do any research. You just have to look out the fucking door and contemplate why, not just automatically assume.
Now, I think they need to redo it or revamp it to where, like, when someone's arrested, well, they sit here, you're arrested, and on these on Facebook, they got this say cheese BS going on to where once you're arrested, they put you on Facebook, you're arrested for this and that. And then the public automatically gets to say, yep, he's guilty, he's arrested, instead of thinking, you know, you're innocent. Well, for us, presumed innocent until proven innocent or guilty. And I think it needs to be fixed to where they can't put any of that on blast until after you've gone through trial, due process of law, and then the people can know, yep, he's guilty, he was found guilty, or she, you know, and
that's
it's done the right way.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Nathan, because if you guys don't see this, that's absolutely what's happening. It's defamation of character by putting you out there in the news or out in the social platforms and getting that pacified community say, ooh, look, he did something bad.
Pretty much like doxing, too.
Yeah, before they even have a chance.
I mean, you get to be made guilty, and then people can make fun of you and make you look bad.
Right. You are being Hitler's willing executioner by assumption. You are automatically assuming the police state is doing its job correctly, when in fact, they're doing their job the way they want to, because that's how they make money. And it is a capitalist system, has nothing to do with ethics. And you people believe it does.
Yeah, I think you've shown a couple where the cops are admitting that they're told, you get this many arrests on this and that, or you're fired. So it ain't just about money, because they get higher bonuses when they do get enough, you know, and then they get a bonus with an award, you know, when they do certain things, even when they're in the wrong.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter how wrong they are. Most likely, they will never even see a court.
And they don't get to give any of that money back.
Most likely, they will resign before getting fired and then just move to the next city or county over. Sometimes the next state. Sometimes after they've had a few of them, they might move cross country. They've got those options. Slimy little fuckers.
Well, I think people need to take, when they go and sue them, and then they want to settle, you say, okay, I'll settle under one condition. You put that person in jail, and you strip them of their peace officer certificate, because that's the problem. People's not bringing up their stripping of their peace officer certificate for being in the wrong.
And Nathan is absolutely correct. If you have the court's motion in your favor, either as a defendant or a plaintiff, like in our situation, the wrongful conviction turned constructive conviction or eviction, the court absolutely violated due process because they had a mandated duty to shift the burden of proof onto the plaintiff under a presumption of retaliation that they did not, in fact, bring the suit in retaliation. They never did that. That's a failure of due process violation. So the court absolutely did that. And I mentioned it and I stated it several times, and yet they just barreled right on through and committed many more procedural legal errors. So as I said in one of my recent videos, we're going after the local courts now in a civil suit as well. And in that, we recently got our judicial complaint decision back, and they said, no, it's not worth it. We don't see enough efficient evidence. There isn't efficient evidence. Though it's plainly clear that the process due was violated, there's not sufficient evidence. So we make another complaint to them, pointing this out, as well as another statutory violation or constitutional violation under P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S versus state, where they absolutely dismissed in favor of the plaintiff, even though they were barred because they lost jurisdiction. They then turned around and assessed the cost to the defendants, and then denied the defendant's appeal, saying that the defendant got the best outcome he could get. So you charge a defendant through an illegal eviction process, testify to that on the record. The court hears that, doesn't do anything about it after they've already been required to shift the burden to them and didn't. All kinds of fuckery going on. And like I said, if the Judicial Complaints Commission doesn't want to hear it and pose some kind of official action against these judicial actors, then the Judicial Commission itself will be involved in that same civil suit.
I wonder.
Hold on, let me finish. Keep stacking them up. Keep stacking them up. Because you are not immune. No matter how much you think you are never immune from the end results of righteousness. Whether you see it in this lifetime or not, which I hope you do, you people should be hung. This has gone on way too long and creeped into way too many souls and pacified way too many good people. This shit only happens because good people do not stand up and do something about it. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, like, you don't get the proper due justice in the way that they're supposed to do it. If you could be able to create a criminal complaint form and send it to the U.S. Marshals and see if they can do something about it.
Well, you mentioned it in the civil suit part. That's part of the remedy. When you ask for remedy, see, when you're the one bringing the case and it's your suit and you're asking for the remedy, this is your right to cure. In that right to cure, you have to make note of all the things that need to be cured. So in my cure, I've noted all those things down in a memorandum of law. And in that memorandum of law, in these next civil suits against the court and the Judicial Commission, that is going to be part of the remedy. That no longer will these judges be allowed ever to just blatantly sit there and act in a procedural process as an administrator when it is required that they are supposed to act as a chancellor in equity and accept the substance over the form. There is nothing, like I said, Psalms 33:9, there is nothing that is greater than substance. The form of that substance makes no difference. See, that's that image and likeness. I was formed different than Nathan, but our substance is the same. We both have a heart. We both have a mind. We both have that image and likeness of that creator that says we have dominion over our nature, not over each other.
Actually, getting consent through natural law, so they're not going to face the consequence. As soon as you remove your consent from all this bullshit, then it won't affect you anymore. And if it does, then they're going to eventually have to face, the natural law they'll get dealt with accordingly either way. So.
Yeah, well, that's that thing about people sitting on that.
See, and there's this is great. Josh Ajonio 6381 says UCC 3-110B. State is payee by default because the settler didn't elect. See, nobody was elected as settler. Do you guys know what the courts operate on? They operate on this very presumption right here. And all you have to do is defeat that presumption. And this is your capacity and status I have the capacity as a natural man and fundamentally different by nature. I did not elect to be this corporate capitalist settler for these commercial accounts. I did not elect to be the settler through a taxpayer identification system under a taxpayer number as the taxpayer. I never elected to do so. It was presumed through your false patriotic sense of humor and delusion that I would just go along with the circus and enjoy all the bells and whistles. You know, all them benefits. Fucking delusional.
Yeah, there's a judge on social media, Judge Fleischer. I watched one trial recently with one dude in there, and he says, well, the 14th Amendment says I have a right to travel. And he sits there and interprets it as, yeah, the right to travel on your feet. And then I sent in his DM, where does it state in the 14th Amendment that you can only travel by foot and no other means? He didn't say anything, but I got a fan badge all of a sudden.
But you know, the funny thing about that right to travel, and you guys know I've done a lot of research on it. I'm still researching. But under the UN and the Universal Postal Union, you know, the one I was talking about Trump with, their first article in the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union says that anybody who signs on with that Constitution as a partner and adopts even just that first part as an independent being, that first part, agreeing that I will allow the U.S. or the Universal Postal Union to help me in my communications. That's what the Postal Union is for, communications. And in that, I have the freedom of transit throughout the entire territory of the Union. Now, the Constitution of the United States starts out with what, folks? Nathan?
I don't know. I haven't studied it all, so
Let's pull it up.
I'm just learning here and there, and
We're gonna give everybody a lesson.
And then if I keep repeating something, I'll remember it. But if I don't, I don't. But I mean, we have the right to travel privately for private travel and commercial travel, and none of them recognize private travel because it's all about profit, racketeering, and control.
But again, Nathan, I got to help you fix your language with what I'm trying to do here. It's not travel. I just explained this. This is transit. This is transit. Okay. And under the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, I have the freedom of transit throughout the entire territory of the Union. And what does the Constitution of the United States start with, folks? We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. It's part of that union.
Well, dude.
And in union, we as people are transient. We transit.
Well, I noticed it says of the United States, not of the United States of America.
Correct, but I'm pointing out to form a more perfect union.
Yeah.
Is relative to the postal union, which is a labor union of communication. Your words form actions, which is labor. Okay. Create a more perfect union. Okay, so let's get back to it. Oops, what happened here? Did I lose my screen share? I did.
Couch watching the boob tube and eating the processed foods and drinking the poison. They see them lights and hear the sirens, so they poke their head out and they see somebody getting arrested a couple blocks down the street. They go back to watching their boob tube because their life is so dramatic and positive that they got to watch somebody else. So then the next week they're doing the same thing, and lo and behold, they see them lights and hear them sirens. So they poke out again, and down the other side of the street, they're hauling off with one of the other neighbors. The next night, the same thing. They look out, they're hauling off somebody across the street. The next night, their neighbor. When do you think they're coming for you? You're not sure. And if you think they're the only ones they're coming for, it's a grab for everything under a Kantian banking principle. The one that has all of it when it's done and over with wins. It's a
Back to blue until it happens to you. You got all those nice things, but when they come for you, think about Job. Are you going to stand in the faith of God and get back up again and speak the truth?
demonic system.
It is, and you're completely correct. Like, for example, like what happened?
How many times do you think they've taken everything I got? How many times do you people think I've started over? Why do you people think I have nothing in life? You think because I don't try? Pathetic.
Because there are people out there willing to take it from you.
I was walking,
And I see it as back to blue coats.
Absolutely. Back to blue until it happens to you. No matter who's enforcing the authority, back them. Because that's your safety. That's your protection. Even though you know it's false, you believe it so much, you make it real. You are Hitler's willing executioners, waiting for them to protect you.
As I'm walking up, I hear like pop, 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 like a bunch of shots go off. And there's a fucking guy, you know, she probably should have wore a belt. His pants are like fucking half off onto his ankles, like trying to run away. He got headshot. You know, I'm like, what the fuck? And everybody's just pulling out their phones, taking pictures of him. No one's trying to help or do anything. I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, you can't really help this guy. He's like, it's too late. You got fucking headshot. But it's yeah, this is how people are bred. They don't give a fuck unless it's completely affecting them or someone around them. And that's, you know, it's like
Firsthand. Yeah. And it's sad because it takes such a poignant event of reality. And even then, many of them don't get it. They dig deeper in with their heels into the anger and resentment and all that. And it's
all fear. Yeah, they're afraid. They're afraid that, you know, but like, most of society, you cut off the grocery, you cut off everything. You just don't go on the force. They'll probably die within like a week if they're lucky.
Well, yeah, a lot of people nowadays, if this world were to switch in one way or another, where people would become dependent upon their own survival skills, instincts, and whatnot, it would be a bottlenecking, just natural. You wouldn't have to kill each other. People would just automatically die off because they don't know how to take care of themselves. And there aren't enough people that can take care of themselves in a large enough portion of the population. It would automatically bottleneck.
So what happened with this? What happened with this whole cancer thing? Because I've heard you mention it before, but I really heard the entire. So you got cancer. What stage was it in? And just miraculously healed? Is there anything?
When I caught it, I didn't know it was cancer at first. I had taken up a painting job and was helping.
So I'm going to reiterate up here for all the viewers, because you don't get to see the chat. I live in peace within the union, a different kind of union than union. Notice the spelling. Words make a difference. They do matter. A union of mankind and not of persons elected or per se entitled, categorized. Fundamentally different in nature.
A friend do some painting through his private contracting for apartment complexes and stuff. And I thought it was just from painting. I got this shoulder pain. Well, after a few months of it just gradually getting worse and worse, they did some scans and found out I had cancer. I had a 4 centimeter by 5 centimeter lump in my right lung and a little tiny piece of cancer in my left lung. And they were both active. And
I'll let everybody know here, folks, this video series was during my cancer. I could sit in front of a video and do videos, but that's about it. But I still did it. You're never going to stop me from speaking out. And not once did I think about my own death. Not once.
Yeah, my dad's family and the hospital with that caretaking other agency that comes around, you know, the houses, you know, that when they got a certain person that comes around to just check them out, whatever, work together against me to prevent me from taking care of my dad, treating him my way.
Yeah. See,
I think my way was starting to work, and then they really came down on me when the doctor started seeing what was going on.
And that's part of that indoctrination, just like the public education system. The entire welfare system is the same way. That's why we have kindergarten and preschool, right? So we can indoctrinate all people into allowing other people to take care of our children, all the way up into adulthood through their education, right? We allow them to care for them as well.
Yeah, he actually starved to death rather than the cancer killing him, because the death certificate said malnutrition part of the death.
And the saddest part of it is that we go through our entire adult life then to end up in a nursing home rather than living with a relative.
Yeah, hospice don't do what people thinks it would do.
My wife has dementia. And I'm losing her before my eyes. And it sucks.
Yeah.
But there's nothing I won't do for her. There's nothing anybody else could do for her that I can't do for her. There's no one else that will love her like I do.
Well, that's why I say get a hold of that carbon-60. Olive oil has carbon-60 infused into it, because carbon-60, come to find out, when I looked it up, they gave it to rats, and then they went to look for a certain amount that it would take to become toxic and injure or kill them. They couldn't find the toxicity though, and so they left them alone. Well, later they lived past the age that they were to die at, and so they did a little more research and threw other things at them: poisons, chemo, radiation. Did nothing to them, and they stopped giving it to them. Well, later they cut them, they was giving them that stuff while they was testing them, while they was on it also. And so after they had lived past the age they were supposed to be deceased, they cut them open, and their insides was like they were juveniles. That stuff will help you live longer than you're supposed to, and it will prevent poisons from hurting you.
And that's one of the important things folks need to educate yourselves on. Don't believe me. Do not believe me.
That's what I say. That's what I heard.
Let me finish. Do not believe me. Do not believe the neighbor. Do not believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. See, like I said, not once did I think about myself dying when I had cancer. I continuously did research to learn what I could do, and I did it. I'm no longer cancer-free, or no longer cancer-ridden. I'm cancer-free as of October last year. I still go in for scans. I got to go in for one tomorrow morning. Matter of fact, is my next one. And I'll be back Monday night to let everybody know how that looks. But the last one was clean as well. So I'm under supervision with scans for a couple years, every 6 months. And then I'll be able to ring that bell at the local cancer clinic. But in the meantime, again, do your research, folks. Stop listening to all the babble and just believing it because you think you understand it. I can explain it to you, but I cannot comprehend it for you, nor can I do it for you. I can only stand up for myself and hope others will imbue that same character, because it's only this kind of shit that happens because good people don't stand up.
Well, supposedly Kennedy is taking it, and if you listen to his voice, it sounds a lot better than it used to.
Well, that would be amazing, that's for sure, because that guy's got a gravelly voice 10 times mine.
Yeah, the vaccine did it to him.
And so that's what was causing the pain. It was pinching my nerve, and it was steadily growing. But by that time, that was the first time we realized it was cancer. And so before they could really do anything, it just kept growing, and I had to get on pain meds for a little bit. I ended up on the couch for 7.5 months, but I got the RSO, Rick Simpson oil, and I was using that, apricot kernels, baking soda, salt, hydrogen peroxide, infused breathing treatments, all kinds of stuff. I use DMSO. Get done taking a shower, and I'll spray myself down with some DMSO, all kinds of stuff. And I've got an MRI, I think October.
DMSO, folks, for you that don't know, is one of those things that it'll go through your body, and it removes the toxins. It attaches to toxins and just carries them right on through the body and out, or back out in your sweat.
Yeah, I used it.
And we'll find out.
I had allergies. It
Does it
got
help?
rid of them. It got rid of them. I used it one time, right there in between my eyes, right above my eyebrows, down around the sides of my nose, and then right there beside my nose on my cheeks. And I rubbed it in there because I was tired of it all, and I had heard about it, so I bought it. It was a gel, and it will make you stink too, like garlic in a way, but kind of different. But it got rid of it 5 minutes and never had allergies since.
Yeah, I still use cell salts, colloidal silver, the vitamin supplements, the herbal teas and everything. I still use all that stuff now, and I've always been a nature guy. I've always done my fishing and trapping and stuff, and skinning and cleaning all my own stuff in that nature, gardening, all that stuff. Make my own homemade hot sauces, ketchup, blueberry jelly, shine, all kinds of things. So I urge people to get back to your nature. We are fundamentally destroying our own nature. I urge you to get back to it.
Yeah, I used colloidal silver too, and I had chronic indigestion 24/7. No matter what I ate, drink water, get around cigarette smoke, I'd get it, and then it'd be all day. I'd try not to drink or eat anything if I wake up and not have it until it started. And so I took a bunch of different herbs and spices, the strongest smelling ones, with a few others, because I looked up what kills candida, because I found out candida is what causes it. And so I looked up all the herbs and spices that kill candida bacteria, and then I mixed them all up equally, and then put them in empty capsules. And I took 5 twice a day for 2 months. And I was taking Prilosec because then I also found out, I looked it up to see what side effects Prilosec creates. And runnies for the rest of your life and other stuff. And I was like, oh, forget that. And I was on it already for 15 years. And so I took all that for 2 months and finally got to where I didn't have to take the Prilosec anymore. And then eventually I got rid of it. I don't have indigestion at all anymore. But I did catch one side effect from it. And it's kind of like an asthma attack in a way. Your body is forced to inhale, do an inhalation motion forcefully. And there was quite a few times where it would come on so strong it almost hurt. But now I barely have it.
Yeah, see, that's your natural remedies, folks. Again, we are fundamentally different than all of the synthetics that they feed us in these medicines. Get back to your nature, I urge you. It'll do us so much better as a world as a whole, as mankind as a whole. When we are healthier, we treat each other better.
I've got an MRI, I think October something, and we'll find out how much it's decreased since. But the last time
so you're still fine with it? Yeah.
Say what?
Oh, so you haven't went to remission yet or whatever?
Well, it's getting smaller now, and like I said, the next MRI will show.
You're in remission. You're in remission.
Right. The last MRI showed it was 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters. So this next one will show how much more it might have decreased. And like I said, I've been putting on weight and gaining energy and stuff, and it's going the right direction now.
You should attempt this. Have you ever heard of the gateway process? They even allude to it, like that unsealed CIA document how they're doing like energy work and stuff, like mental visualization. There's also another one called, and like a lot of these things, called the middle pillar technique. I think last time we were talking, I dropped a book. It's by Israel Regardie from like 18 something, called The True Art of Healing. And in that book, it shows you how to do this technique where you can, it's not going to fucking hurt you to try. I really recommend you do this shit before your next scan, because my mom had an issue and I've been doing it. She's not into this kind of stuff, but I've been doing it for her and directing it to her. And actually, she went for an MRI there, and it completely disappeared, like magically.
Well, and my apologies. You know, Cage is a great guy and all. There's something off on him, and I love him for it. But I can't have him on panel anymore because he sidetracks, and he certainly does like to interrupt here and there. So my apologies for the distraction here. I can't remember what the rest of this video was about, whether we got back on track. So we're just going to keep listening. Make your comments in the chat. Understand that we're talking about the American dream. Is this your American dream? Are you seeing America as you thought it should be? Are we going to celebrate Hitler's willing executioners this 4th of July right here on American soil? Is that what we're really going to do? Or are we going to start standing up as true Americans and throw off a despotic government in every form? Do you have that substance in you?
I still use this. This is the GB4000. It's pretty much similar to the Reich machine. It's a frequency wave generator.
Oh, really? So if you did the middle pillar technique with that,
Yes, and I still use that too. Not as frequently as I used to. I used to use it every day for a couple of years. But I haven't used it like that. I still use it like once a week or so. And it's my firm belief that what we're doing here is just like going out, like I said, getting your nature barefoot and grounding. Get the feel of the earth again. Get that sense. Let that voltage run through you. That frequency. These rubber shoes, you think that was meant on purpose or not? You think that was a comfort and convenience? You think it's so comfort and convenient to wear those shoes, bundling up your toes until you're old, 70 years of age, and you got 3 or 4 foot surgeries with hammer toe, and they have to fuse your toes, and now you can't walk? Come on, think about it.
Supercharging it. You should look into it because you make your own variation of it. Right? This is just like a guide.
Yeah, this has got all kinds of codes you can program into it. There's hundreds of them, and it works. It's a wave generator for frequencies.
Function generator.
Yep, and you can change those waves. You can use square waves, sine waves, da da da. And it's got so many codes and stuff for everything, dude. Everything, literally. Cancers.
Let me pull this book up again. I think they even have it on audio book on YouTube for free. Like you should just try it, man. It's not gonna fucking hurt you. You know what I mean? Unless you want to.
Drop it in comments. And of course, I want to remind everybody before we head out here, hit that like, share, and subscribe button for me, please. There's PayPal links down in the chat, or down in the details section below for anybody who wants to share some love. Every little bit counts, $10, $20, $30, whatever. And of course, the StreamYard link is pinned for anybody that might want to stop up real quick before we're out.
The first link, this one's like a 10-hour audiobook, but this one just like getting into the deeper waters of it. So this link explains the idea. And then I'll send you the one where it's a shorter book, it's like only an hour, and it shows you exactly just how to do that technique. It's like a visualization technique, you know. I know it sounds, I'm telling you, it has more power than it seems, right? Because most people hear that as like woo-woo, but it actually does something like to the reality.
Well, think about something. You got a bunch of solid crystals. You hit them with a sound wave. It creates a piezoelectric current within those crystals. The vibrations in the crystals creates another piezoelectric current. Now, those sound waves on those solid crystals in air is one thing, but what happens to the sound in water? It increases. Well, you've got 2 places in your body where you have solid crystals in bodies of liquid. And then you also have a third place that has solid crystals within a soft membrane.
That would be your pineal gland.
So you're literally a transformer, an upgrade transformer, or step up transformer, or step down transformer, and you can actually.
And one of the ones with solid crystals in a liquid body is in your ears, one in each ear. It's what gives you your balance. That's what gives you your standing. That's what allows you to keep that balance and take every step in transit.
Modulate that yourself at the piezoelectric level. This is part of your emotional system.
Oh yeah, for sure. They call it the lower middle Dantian in Eastern alchemy. They call it the Tree of Prima in Western alchemy. In new science, like in neuroscience, they've discovered that you have actually billions of these little tiny crystals in your actual brain called magnetite, and they create chains called magnetosomes, which vibrate and create different levels of consciousness.
Correct. They don't call them magnetites in the ear. I can't remember what they're called, but they're same type of thing. They're not any kind of metal, which is what a magnetite is. And we all have elemental metals in us naturally in the minute atomic crystal form, just like colloidal silver, colloidal gold. It's anatomic particles.
Copper.
Electromagnetic fields either due to the Schumann resonance of the Earth or
Yes, copper too.
non-native
What?
emitters that are being generated through telecommunication systems, stuff like
Go ahead.
What's that mean? Okay.
that.
Well, being magnetites, as you said, I've always posed that rather than being electromagnetic, I pose that as magneto-electric.
In a way, you're correct. Yeah, you can look at it like that. Same thing, really. But yeah, I dropped the 2 links in there. The first one, I just read this.
In other words, once one thing was put in motion, it affected another. It created a wave. That wave intersects itself and multiplies. And as it keeps intersecting with itself, it keeps multiplying.
Second one first. The second link.
I remember now.
An hour. Tells you how to do.
Is that Nathan? Go ahead.
I don't know what you think about Alex Jones. I don't care for him anymore now, but that.
Well, I love it when he accidentally shaved his mustache.
That's funny. I didn't hear that. But the
Oh,
super male,
yeah.
the
Let me tell you everybody about Alex Jones and his shaving accident. He went on air for one day wearing a short mustache and said he had a shaving accident. Mine's on purpose, and I do it every fucking day. He thinks it's comedy. I'm being very fucking dark and real.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to city council and I point it out to them. And I speak about this very topic, Hitler's willing executioners. I let them know we do not allow Hitler's willing executioners in our fucking buildings. Celebrate that. Excuse my anger.
Cool. But that super male vitality that he sells, that stuff actually does work. And within 3 days, you're going to have things happening. That's like when you was in your teens to 20s, with your thing. It cleans all your glands out, and it gives you energy. But after 3 days, yeah, you'll know. It's just I don't sport it much. If I had the money, I'd still buy it. But it helped me.
Yeah. So let's finish this up. Just a minute or so left here.
Technique. Just try it. Trust me. This is some of these societies like the Golden Dawn, all these other ones, like higher level music. They all learn this stuff and apply it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, and before I head out, I was thinking about doing a review of our brother Doc Peter. I did a short video earlier introducing him.
Okay, well, that's it then. So, again, celebrating this 4th of July, all you good Americans, like all you good Christians that act like good Christians, huh? You're going to act like an American or a Hitler's willing executioner? When you celebrate this 4th of July, the 250th anniversary, the crux of when most empires and nations fall, are you going to be part of that fall? Or are you going to show your true patriotism and turn this world around and be the true children of God and make America beautiful again? Because right now, it's ugly as fuck. It's not a shithole. It's worse. It's ugly as fuck. And if that's what you're going to celebrate, have fun. And when you're out there buying them fireworks and everything, and you got to pull out that ID to show that you're 18, look at your daddy on that fucking ID. It says his name right at the top. You're paying tribute to a false patriarch to do everything you want to celebrate. Have fun with that. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, that's the name they go by on those plates too. That's who says who owns that vehicle.
Yeah, that's the ownership.
So Texas,
So
the state of Texas, the state of whatever owns your vehicle.
Yep. So anyway, folks, that's the end of our thing tonight. I've got something that came up and I got to go take care of it. My apologies. But I will be back either tomorrow or the next day to do the final review of Hitler's Willing Executioners, Part 16. So pay attention, be watching for it, and we'll see you then. And any words on the way out, Nathan?
Yeah, thanks for having me up. I'm glad this worked out.
Yeah, me too.
For me to be able to have a good audio at least.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You guys don't understand Nathan's problem with audio here lately.
I may have to log into StreamYard for it to maybe work. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
for
what
some reason. I mean, it's on. It's just it's only letting me have it on my cell phone speaker.
Yeah,
and that's why we got good audio, because I even had it that way before, just my cell phone speaker, and it wouldn't work.
Right, and that's why. Do you have an iPhone?
No, I have one of them buy at dollar store, track phones.
Little Android. All right.
Yeah, Android.
But yeah, you guys don't know. Nathan and I have known each other for years, and we think a lot alike when it comes to this stuff. And he's been trying to get up on panel many times. And he's always had this tech issue, and that's part of the problem. When we're held back and we don't have the availability of good tech to do the things in a good communication, it destroys the communication. And that's what it's all about, folks. Our communication is so imperative. He spake, and it was done. Words make actions. He commanded, and it stood fast. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. As long as we stand in the Word of God and what He commanded, it's already done. That's what our standing should be. I firmly believe that. And simply to say that if we stand in truth and make that our substance, never lying, and always standing up when we see an oppressor, bullying, destroying, genociding, that we burn the draft cards. We say no to killing babies. We say no to the idiotic insanity of this democracy. When are you going to stand up and know that your one vote, your one word in truth is what is absolute? I hope you guys celebrate the truth this weekend. The truth. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, if they draft you and force you into the war, you don't have to pick up that gun and fire. You don't have to do what they want. You just have to be there if they force you.
Yep, that willing executioner. Well, I thank you, Nathan. Again, I appreciate your effort. It's finally come through. We hope it works again the second time. Like you said, remember, just log in through StreamYard next time. Yeah. In the meantime, folks, you all know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you disrespect me. That part's on you. So may God love you and have a great night. Enjoy the outro.
Bye, everyone.
Hold up, grab my soda, cause I told you I'm colder than hell. I ain't buying what you sell, it don't ring my bell. Unless it's got the smell, you know, like grape pape. We ain't talking vapes or the color of drapes. Or a gorilla in a cape is the good shit. Just one hit, you so lit, you fall into a bit, non-bit. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie. Generation of the coronation with gross castration, skewed citations by your intimation. Get real, young man, there's only one stand. You can't stand a suntan. How you gonna live on the land? Obliteration of the carnation with gross castration in skewed citations by your intimations. I'm a truth in rotation. You're a cheap imitation. Dog said hums, 808s make the ground shake. Cold as the grave, every word's a land quake. You're a flicker in a cipher, I'm the flame that won't fade. Step into the night where the shadows are made. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie. I'm gonna click another hit of this good shit, and I'm already it, so take over, it's been non-bit.
Thank you for joining us at Personality Inventory Mockumentary Productions. Man up, slaves, and hit those buttons, or I'll send ice.